Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails, a Grand Arena story. I've got a really fun episode for you guys today, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, let's talk a little bit about me and Kyber and how I'm in it one more time. And I made it even before this round started, so pretty cool. Good celebration for me. This is the fourth time I've made it. I feel like it's been a little bit watered down this specific time, just because they've increased the number of banners that you earn for wins, but at the same time, I did make it again, and it's always exciting. I mean, I really love the color. I love the significance that everyone places on it, and just a really cool achievement. So happy to have gotten that. Thank you guys so much for your support along the way. It's been a really fun March, and let's move into the match now. Alright, so this is the penultimate match in the current Grand Arena season. We're in Grand Arena Championships 3, Week 4, Match 2, which means we're in the semifinals. And I faced off against a guy named Bart, and he is a pretty funny guy, and we'll cover a little bit of that later. But beyond that, I wanted to make this final week of Grand Arena Championships into my kind of shout-out week, which means that I shout out various members of the community for making excellent content. And today's focus is going to be on Klesso. He makes Grand Arena videos and has a really high rate of success. Really great stuff. I'll put his YouTube channel URL on the top of the video description below, so go check that out. Give him a sub or a like or a high five or a comment or just whatever else. I'm sure he'd accept an oath of fealty if you wanted to do that. Just kind of the standard stuff. So anyways, I'll be playing video clips of his various videos throughout, so don't be alarmed when you see them. Unless you're into that kind of thing, which is your own business. Don't share it with me. Or probably anyone, really. Anyways, let's jump into the match here.
Let's take a little look at the tail of the tape before we get into it.
The first thing that jumped out at me on my opponent's roster when I looked at his stats was the fact that every single Gear 13 character was also at Relic level 4 or higher. And so they have me completely destroyed on Relic tiers for the most part. You see I have a Relic tier 7 there, one extra over him, but that's actually a lie. My General Kenobi is only Relic 5 for lock this time, so a little bit off. My opponent also had an advantage in speed mods for the most part. Not a huge advantage, but a little bit. But I did beat them in Gear 13, which in a lot of ways is my most favorite stat. They also had more Zetas than I did, so that meant that they'd been playing a little bit longer. Looking at the overall success in Grand Arena, it looks like I've beat them in a lot of different things. They do have more defensive wins though by a considerable margin, so not going to be an easy match. I wasn't really sure what my opponent was going to place on defense. Their roster was extremely robust and included a Gear 13 Wat, which I was really hoping they wouldn't put with their General Grievous squad. And the first zone seemed like a pretty easy one, honestly. Gear 12 Night Sisters used to be really scary, but they're not really that scary anymore. However, their Relic 4 Wat was with their Grievous, so womp womp on that part.
Okay, so if you watch my buddy Xaereth's last video, he had a similar battle.
So the front zone here is the one that we want to target first, just so that we have a better understanding of what other teams we're going to be facing for the rest of the match, and we can choose our counters accordingly. And luckily for me, my opponent didn't really place very difficult teams there. I didn't really have to think very hard on what teams I wanted to use. My two weaker teams, which are Imperial Troopers and First Order, are, they're not necessarily weak, but they can't take out meta teams. And so the two teams here are not really meta teams. Or rather, Night Sisters kind of is, but Troopers counter them pretty well. So no-brainer here. Take my Imperial Troopers against these Night Sisters because the Troopers are considerably faster than them. Stark goes first, gives them the buff, everyone gains turn meter. Death Trooper goes, he throws the grenade and dispels zombie and increases cooldowns. After that, Range Trooper buffs everyone, and everyone has a ton of turn meter. You try to take one Night Sister out, doesn't really matter which one. They get revived. Everyone gains a ton of turn meter, though, because the Night Sister had died. And, you just rinse, repeat until all the Night Sisters are gone. So, kind of an easy match here, and 60 banners.
Bingo, 60. I love my troopers. I can't express enough how much this one thing I think is what has propelled me into having a chance to make Kyber.
And Kleso's right here, guys. Having Imperial Troopers is really, really awesome for a Grand Arena, just because they provide a lot of flexibility, and you're able to take out a team like Night Sisters or Django with max banners, and that frees up a lot of your better teams to be able to take out their better teams. Like it kind of just trades up and sets a lot of your other matchups favorably. So. Definitely look into getting a strong trooper squad. It seems a little bit silly to be working on troopers in this day and age, but there you have it. Really strong. Alright, so moving on to the current match, I took First Order into this Kira Nest team, and this is a pretty standard team that I'm facing. I faced a lot of Kira teams with Nest with First Order. This is one of the established counters, and I stunned Nest right away, and then I tried to stun, or I did stun Captain Han, because he's the only one who could dispel it. But then I didn't have a way to dispel Stormtrooper Han, which in turn led to me hitting him enough times that Nest gained a ton of turn meter and got free anyways. So I need to look at that. And so the first target you always want to take out is Vander Chewie. You see the buff over his head, that's prepared. That means that the second I kill any of these other guys, at least if they're scoundrels, which all of them are, he'll revive them. And so I'm trying to take him out because there's no point in taking out anyone else. But in that time, Relic 4 Nest just casually walked over and killed First Order officer. So not my very favorite thing, but it is what it is. And now we're taking out Captain Han because he revived Chewie, and that can start an endless loop if you're not ready. So took him out, and now there's no more revives, but Nest is still there. She's got a ton of health, a ton of speed. Actually, she's a really fast Nest, and a ton of offensive power. And so we're just trying to get through this match, trying to control the situation. You'll see that I did one random hit with First Order Executioner on Nest early on, just because Nest, had no bonus protection, and so I could actually hit into her normal protection, and then, if I could just wait and kill other things, then I wouldn't be wasting my turn meter on her. So, we're just trying to bide our time, wait until she's available to take damage again, and she was pretty fast, so she got a lot of turns, and this Nest wasn't that much of a problem other than doing a lot of damage. So 56 banners is not what I signed up for, but that's kind of the thing you're gonna have to accept when you're facing a Nest with high relics. Hopefully my own opponents who face my relic Nest face similar difficulties. So looking at their back zones, they didn't necessarily have anything too scary. They had Geonosians, which I was prepared to be able to take out. Their Django bounty hunters were fast, but I had a counter for that. The first thing I looked at, though, they didn't have any meta teams available that I needed to use Darth Revan on, and so I had the luxury of being able to take Darth Revan into General Grievous with the Relic 4 Wat, which is a huge plus. And then, really, the counters weren't that difficult to determine after a while. I've used Jedi Revan into Newt Separatists, and because I'm taking Darth Revan into General Grievous, I don't need Jedi Revan into Grievous, so Revan is available. The clones with Shaak Ti had a ton of relics on them, but my Padme team has a bunch of relics on them. And so, all the different matchups kind of lined up this match, which is relatively rare. But, I also had to execute all of these guys all these teams were really well modded, and they had a lot of relics all over the place. And so, I needed to be careful and not misstep. So, in terms of which squads I should take out first, it was pretty clear that I wanted to take out the General Grievous squad with Darth Revan. And, you want to take out that zone just so that you can be able to get through and have access to that back zone. One thing that's important to note as well, if there's a team that you are not sure that you can actually counter with more than one team, like, for instance, sometimes my opponent has a Darth Revan team that I can only counter with Darth Revan, I'll take out that Darth Revan team in the top zone, in that 3-man zone, first before I even clear the bottom zone, just because if I go into that match and lose, then I can, if I've weakened them, then I can potentially be able to still take it down, but I'll have to reevaluate and redistribute different squads. If you leave yourself with only one counter and you've already spent most of your teams, on other teams, like, you have one shot, and if you can't actually win, if RNG goes sideways, you're going to just be stuck. And so, you need to be able to counter those really strong teams. So, like I said, if my opponent had deployed Darth Revan on that top zone, I would have gone for that first before I'd even taken out the Night Sisters or Kira. So, just something to think about. Let's move in and see how Darth Revan does against this Relic 4 Wat team.
This can still get a little dicey. Obviously, the idea is to try to get somebody under 50% health so that Mark goes on Grievous, and then we can attack him and kill him, and once he's dead, then everything kind of falls apart. But if you kill somebody too fast and they get target lock going, and then they hit that and they get all that turn meter, that can go pretty crazy pretty fast. So I say we give it a whirl.
Good idea, Klesso. Let's give it a whirl. So, marching into this match, of course, Wat is going to go first. He gives the taunting buff to Magna Guard, which means we can't dispel that taunt unless, there's some mechanic at play that makes it so that he can't taunt anymore, or until we take out his protection. And so right now we're really looking for getting one of the characters down to 50% health, so then that puts Deathmark onto General Grievous. And now that General Grievous has Deathmark, he goes down really fast and easy, and everyone has fear, and this match has become kind of a laugher. Like, it's a tricky one, but we can rest assured, like, one awesome thing about taking out Grievous with Deathmark is, Wat has an annoying ability to be able to revive characters who are in the same faction as him, and so he could have revived Magna Guard there, but he couldn't have revived General Grievous. And, General Grievous is really the crux of this team, of course. They made all the mechanics centered around him. And so, of course, you want to be able to keep him from coming back. And, that's what we did here. And now all we have is B1. The hope is that we're going to be able to take B1 out before he's able to do an AoE and take all my different protect points away. But it went really well. 59 banners is great, and we're just kind of rolling now.
So that feels pretty good. We're getting some decent banners so far.
So my next match was always going to be against the Shaak Ti clones using Padme, and you want to be careful with this match. I recently watched a video with my good friend Solo using Padme as a counter to clones, and he made a couple missteps, and I don't want to bring any negative attention to him because his channel is great, he's a great player, but just to illustrate, like, he had a really strong team, and he ended up losing to a clones team just because I think, he made a couple missteps just like all of us do. And he lost. I think he felt like he should have won that battle, if he had played a little bit better. And I absolutely agree. Padme has a pretty distinct advantage, but the whole point I'm trying to make here is that even good players, if they're not taking a team as seriously as maybe they should, or they're not as focused, or don't have a plan in place, they can lose to this team. It's not a laughingstock team. It's not a team to take lightly. So anyways, you always want to take out Shaak Ti first in this particular matchup, just because she provides so many good buffs passively to the different clones. But the clock is kind of ticking here because you want to be able to take out Rex as soon as you can, but you have to take out Shakti first, then you have to take out Fives, then you have to take out Rex. If you wait too long to take out Rex, though, of course, he's going to be able to get his mini Annihilate ability off, and so it can go downhill pretty quick. Anyways, 56 banners here, pretty quick and easy in this case, but again, like, you have to have the right targeting priority, and honestly, you have to have the right relic levels and gear. So happy I made it through that with one shot, and moving on to the last team in the zone, which is Newt. The plan was originally to take Jedi Knight Revan here, and I saw no real reason to delay that, so just jumped in with them.
We're gonna pick our Jedi, but now we're gonna swap these people, go back to a Jedi Knight Revan lead.
And, what Klesso's talking about here is normally we have a setup where we use Jedi Knight Revan as, kind of just a squad member with Bastila to be able to take out General Grievous droids. And, in that case, it's a great swap, but Jedi Knight Revan does do better against most teams. Like, it's kind of a strange exception to be able to use Jedi Knight Revan as just a squad member. So, going into this match, the first thing you want to be able to target is Dooku, and Jedi Knight Revan is uniquely suited for that because he can ignore taunt, and then he can put mark on whoever he wants as soon as he gets a turn. And so even though Dooku was pretty quick here, I was just able to jump in right away and just mark him and take him out before he could stealth the whole team and just have me hit Zalbar. So that was a nice perk to being able to go first. I saved my Dispel with Bastila here just because Droideka is really frustrating when you can't do damage to him, and I don't have any other Dispels available other than Bastila's Dispel. So now let's just clean up. This match wasn't really that hard. This is kind of overkill. Jedi Knight Revan is a great team on offense, and I really love being able to use it on other teams other than General Grievous. So really excited that I'm able to get 60 banners here with Jedi Knight Revan. Maybe I could have taken a undersized squad there. I'm pretty sure I could have, but I actually had watched a Klesso video recently where he underestimated a Newt team with Jedi Revan, and it didn't necessarily go the best, so I just wanted to avoid that. You want to get the win if possible rather than getting a loss hung on you. So my opponent had Negotiator in the back, which was something that was frustrating. The Y-Wing was a little scary. I'd never faced it before, but first I wanted to finish the squad battles just because I was in the zone or something. Now, the standard counter to Geonosians these days is Traya, and I usually try to avoid using that just because bad things can happen when you use this counter. And, I took the full 5-man squad just because I wanted to make sure that I had enough warm bodies to be able to take these guys out. Their spy had an incredible amount of, offense and crit damage and everything that you don't want to see. And so, I needed as many, like I said, bodies as I could possibly get, just because I wanted to one-shot this team. I didn't want to get stuck on it, and so we're just waiting for Traya's leadership to slowly take these Geonosians down. It's a pretty satisfying win and everything. Thrawn did just get targeted down and out really fast, which is unfortunate. However, I did get Isolate on the Brute Alpha, which is, or rather the Brute, which is pretty huge. Being able to take him out of the equation, he's not able to, share his health pool. He's not able to do anything to assist or anything, so that's always helpful. And even beyond, even after I took out the Brood Alpha, though, the match is essentially won. Spy went in and just one-shot Scion, who's Relic. He's Relic 1, but he's Gear 13 and has good mods, so totally one-shot. Not a great result, 53, but we'll take it, I suppose, for a first-time win, and move on and dream of better counters for Geonosians.
All right. So there was never a doubt. I knew this was going to work 100% of the time. It never got sketchy at all. It was super easy, and I had nothing to worry about.
So I did get the win there, and that's wonderful. And we can move on. I should note that my opponent did attack in the middle, and you know, they did manage to take out most of my squads. But we'll look at that in a little bit. Anyways, we wanted to be able to take out this last zone here before we face the ships and the dreaded Y-wing. So took my Commander Luke here, and you know, I took an undersized squad just because I wanted more banners. And honestly, I mean, I'm not going to actually get the undersized feat, which is really frustrating to me. I really wanted to get that this time. I got it last time and 3 times ago, but I obviously haven't been focused as much on that lately. I tend to go into my comfort zone when I'm facing really tough opponents. So this was, you know, maybe in my final match, my opponent will just put fluff squads down and I'll be able to get that feat, but I doubt it. But I still wanted, it's good to have practice, you know, to be able to see. And this bounty hunter team doesn't really present much of a threat. So, you know, you see I'm just trying to stun people, trying to keep them from actually taking turns. And I was, for the most part, successful. You know, Commander Luke can be a really good control squad when you need him to. And, you know, that's really what happened here. There was no real worries there. And, you know, was able to one-shot all of my opponent's squads. However, you know, I actually had a higher score at this point, but my G13 Ray was the only one who was keeping my opponent from being able to full clear, and so I wasn't necessarily trustful that my opponent wasn't going to be able to full clear me. And so if I got stuck behind this fleet, I might end up just losing really bad, you know, like a really embarrassing loss. And so I watched a few videos of people using the Y-wing here, and it didn't necessarily super impress me. And so you know, I just went in and decided to take my same fleet. The goal here now is to get Jedi Knight Anakin and his ship down to like right around 40% health, so that the AI thinks that it needs to, instead of dazing me with Negotiator, it thinks it needs to put the revive ability on Jedi Knight Anakin, which is great because my Negotiator is slower and I wanted to be able to get off daze first. So, you know, that's always the goal, of course. You know, and now I'm faced with the situation of like, I don't know how resilient Y-wing is. All of these guys have the buff that keeps them alive forever. And one thing that I wanted to point out here is, you know, the original strategy that, you know, I've been operating under, which Klesso has a great video of actually, is, you know, it shows that you take 5s as the first reinforcement. And lately I've been trying to use my Clone Sergeant instead. I think Sunfac would work as well, just some kind of taunting tank. Take him in first before 5s. 5s is a good cleanup character or ship. You know, just being able to take this Clone Sergeant and just kind of wait it out a little bit is great. And then just be patient while Anakin, you know, shoots a few times, takes my health down. You know, it's kind of frustrating, but because he gets so many turns, he comes out of stealth pretty quick, and he runs out of his buff that keeps him alive. And so he becomes, you know, more exposed, and you're just able to then go in and, you know, destroy him without much effort, to be honest. And then, you know, it's timed perfectly right now. I wonder if it's going to change once I get a faster Negotiator eventually, you know, if I choose to go that route instead of Malevolence. But it's timed perfectly so that their Negotiator shoots me with daze, and then I go immediately after that and get Plo in, and he dispels everything, heals everyone, and I can just clean up. So pretty clean 59 banners here, just about as good as I can expect, and a full clear on all points. And that meant that I was going to beat my opponent regardless of if they cleared my G13 Ray, which I will show you my defenses now. My opponent was awesome and decided to give me the squads that they used against my different squads here. So, you know, any omissions on their end, the ones that I'm not sure about, aren't because they weren't probably willing, just because I didn't happen to ask clarifying questions. So, on the bottom zone, my Talzin Night Sisters were able to one-shot Scion and beat his Treya team, which is really crazy and really fun for me. And then Jedi Revan took out that Newt squad with Relic 7 Nest, and good riddance to them. The Bounty Hunters team cleaned up a few good squads, took out Resistance, then First Order, and then I assume my opponent used a cleanup squad. Shock T 8 Commander Luke Rebels, Imperial Troopers, and then finally bit the dust to Sith, and then Darth Revan took out my General Grievous with Wat squad. The ship zone is pretty boring. I got one reinforcement in and died, so I just assumed that they used Millennium Falcon. I didn't ask, and we can move on from that right now. Finally, in my back zone, my opponent didn't say what they used on Jedi Training Ray, which is just fine. I assume it was just kind of a bottom of the barrel, like a Qui-Gon Jinn Jedi team or something like that. That's, something I might conceive to use. And then they used Jawas and apparently failed against Geonosians. I don't know what they used on their second attempt, and then Padme cleaned them up. So, overall pretty good defensive score. Got 1916, which is, it's pretty decent, and my defense complemented it pretty well. I was pretty confident that I'd be able to take away a lot of banners from whoever attacked me. So, this defense has been really strong. I will probably keep it for next time, hopefully. Anyways, my opponent was really funny, a really amicable guy, and they guessed, like, at the start of the match after I'd taken out a couple teams. They said, "I bet you're gonna get 19-15 on me," and so they were only one off. I thought that was funny, so I included it. Really a great opponent. I hope he sticks around, comes and joins our Discord server or something. Really great opponent. So anyways, I'm in Kyber. I've been in Kyber, and we have one more round. That'll be exciting, I guess. My next round opponent is actually pretty good. So I did want to show this slide in repayment, or just I kind of threw Solo under the bus previously in this video, and so here's my apology. I wanted to draw attention to the fact that he's the only person in our guild who managed to get us any special mission rewards in this fiasco of a territory battle. So, well done to Solo. He really is a good player, despite the fact that he fails against clones sometimes with Padme. So, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Go and watch Klesso's videos. Go watch Solo's videos, for that matter. Hope you guys enjoyed the random video clips from his different Grand Arena conquests. And anyways, guys, I think I'm going to call it quits here. One last match before Championship 3 is over. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. And remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails.